People have asked whether or not I'm going to attend this State of the Union address. I'd rather stick needles in my eyeballs. This man is a pathological liar, and I'm not going to dignify this speech by sitting there after he tells one lie after another. These are not normal times. This is not business as usual, but I will be there to call it his bullshit on social media, so stay tuned.
I will ask you, do you think he is talking about himself, or is he talking about Trump? Let's hear from Dr. Andrew Huberman to give us some more information as we all open our hearts and self-reflect on exactly what's going on here. Because Dr. Andrew Huberman, a famous neuroscientist, has some excellent advice for all of us, okay? Why you must learn to regulate your nervous system. Thank you, Dr. Huberman.
To do is start to figure out how we can, I think, especially for the next generation of kids, how to teach them to regulate their nervous system so that they recognize that pulse of adrenaline as placing them in a compromised position. Like, we have to leverage the idea that being able to hear and listen hinges on the ability to be calm. So therefore, the ability to be calm is crucial to hearing and listening is crucial to our advancement as individuals and as groups. The problem is everyone's been trying to do this backwards. They've said we all have to get along. We have to cancel culture. We all have to, listen to one another. And I think, again, we have to start from the inside. We have to teach it physiologically. Now, I don't have a master plan on how to do that, but one of the reasons I'm here and one of the reasons I'm, teaching neuroscience on Instagram and not just in my laboratory is until we can learn to regulate the self, I don't think we're going to get where we want to go as a culture. What we need to do.
And, I'll ask you, was that congressman engaging in cancel culture, or was he speaking truth? And if we live in a holographic universe, meaning that we project our hearts onto the quantum field, the universe, so it can show it back to us, who's a congressman really talking about? I'm Carrie Blazer, the Divine Feminine. My soul's name is Sophia. And the main reason I make these videos is I'm sharing my free ebook below, my 6 Divine Feminine Self-Love Strategies, to help everyone learn how to transform their emotional wounds into personal wisdom. Because Carl Jung, I just love Carl Jung. My favorite quote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining beings of light, but by making their darkness conscious." And we're going to talk about how we can all engage and how to make our darkness conscious using 2 of the strategies. Maybe I'll do 3. The universe is a mirror and changing the world is an inside job. But next, I want to bring up a video from Adam Schiff. And we can listen, in the context, the perspective that we live in a holographic universe. The universe is a mirror showing us ourselves in every moment as a constant feedback loop for self-improvement. What does it mean for energetic resonance? What does that mean? We'll get into all the laws of physics, the physiology, the psychology, the cardiology, about how this all operates after we watch Adam Schiff, so we could have, some more to kind of ponder. How is this functioning in society? And if everyone had this wisdom, femininity, then how could we all improve ourselves to co-create a better society? Because my argument is self-love creates heaven on earth, that we all establish that inner authority, that love in our hearts. And then we project love in our hearts and we live in a holographic universe. We can create heaven right here on earth. And, if we live in a holographic universe, how can heaven be someplace else? That's a good question. So let me bring up Adam Schiff, and then we'll go from there. Where are we? Okay, here we are. Let me make my screen bigger, and we'll get going. Okay. Oh, it was bigger. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being out here in the cold. Thank you for speaking truth to power. I am very proud to join you. Tonight, the president stands under the Capitol dome, claiming that our union is stronger than ever. Of all the lies that he will tell in his long and rambling address, This may be the most painfully false. Due to his hate, his cruelty, and his indecency.
Is it decent to have a People's State of the Union when the President of the United States has his State of the Union and, he won the vote? Who's decent? And what is decency? And what is divisive?
We are more divided now than at any time since the Civil War. Trump's promises have all been broken. He promised to bring down costs, but inflation is up. He promised to bring back jobs, but manufacturing has fled. He promised to end trade deficits, but they have reached all-time highs. But no failure is more glaring, more significant, or more damning than his failure to bring our country together. In January of 2017, Donald Trump stood just a couple hundred yards from this place and took the oath of office for the first time, swearing to uphold the Constitution. As you recall, he painted a dystopian portrait of the country, which he described as American carnage. Little could we know at the time, it was less a portrait of the country as it existed then, as much as a prophecy of what he would seek to bring about in the future. For he has created chaos in our streets, masked, heavily armed, and poorly trained ICE agents. And
how do you define chaos in the streets? Is it uncontrolled migration of illegal immigrants that bring drugs into the country that have killed 400,000 Americans more than any other war? Or is it law enforcement, collecting those individuals and deporting them? What is chaos in the streets?
Border Patrol forces sweep through major cities, demanding to see people's papers. In the United States of America, they are demanding to see people's papers. They have detained citizens and non-citizens alike, shot people dead through their windshields and while laying face down in the street. When the courts have ruled against this administration's lawless conduct of its administration raids, their opinions have been ignored. When universities dare to protest, their federal funding has been cut. When law firms represent clients whose interests are adverse to the administration, they are punished. When media organizations speak truth to power, they are forced to pay him millions.
Why doesn't he bring up that ABC, NBC, and CBS are paid for by the federal government, get tons of federal funding, are under the rule of the federal law, and the reason he won those lawsuits is because Trump was standing on federal law? Why isn't that brought up? Does Adam Schiff have a personal internal wound, like an authority wound? Why does he obfuscate the illegal entry for what he perceives as illegal ICE agent activity, which is authority of the federal government? Why does he resonate with the illegal? Why does he put his support there?
Personally, all of this violates the oath the president took to faithfully administer the laws, to vigorously defend the Constitution. Thankfully, our founders gave us the tools to fight back against a man who would be king. And chief among those tools is one more powerful than all the rest, and that is the right to vote. And this November, my friends, we must use that tool. We must vote. One man's story tells us why. On a Saturday afternoon in June in Orange County, California, a landscaper named Narciso Barranco was working outside an IHOP. He lived in the United States since the 1990s, undocumented, yes, but no criminal record.
So he's supporting people coming in undocumented, and he's going to tell the takedown in a second. And my question is, why did it get so violent? but he's on the side of the illegal immigrant. And we have all this fraud going around in America right now. Is he engaging in any illegal activities so that he resonates? He aligns himself with the tribe of illegal people? Why does a government official align himself with the tribe of people engaged in illegal activities in America, crossing the border and coming in is illegal? And then America is financially burdened by all these people and all the services that they need. They're going to our schools, they get Medicaid, they get hospital services that we have to pay for. Why does he align with illegal?
American in every way except for in his papers. In that time, he'd raised 3 sons, all U.S. Marines. That Saturday.
Can you truly be an American? Because I'm going to stop it here. It's just getting too much. Can you be an American without having citizenship? I mean, what was mirrored at like our recent Super Bowl in 2026 is that Bad Bunny was saying, I'm American, and he was talking about all the countries in North and South America. Is that what Schiff is saying? And he's a congressman? Like, what is he actually saying? Because we always tell on ourselves. Because the universe is a mirror, what comes out of my mouth, out of my heart, is all me. So what is he really revealing about himself? I'll let you, think about that. Let me bring up, I just learned how to change screens. So let me go to the next screen and I'm going to share this tab instead. And here's my favorite, Carl Jung. One does not become enlightened by imagining beings of light, but by making their darkness conscious. So what I mean by this, what I see in this one is that when you're imagining beings of light, your heart is closed down and your brain is overactive because you're out here. It's a projection. But then you think it's real, and that's where you find utopia. Oh, and communism will just work, as if it's worked anywhere. It hasn't worked anywhere because it doesn't work. But when we take responsibility for our projection, our darkness, then we can make that conscious, and that's how we turn our wounds into wisdom. That's why self-reflection is so important. Femininity is so important. And I know, I'm responsible for bringing down the patriarchy, and I'm working hard. I know it's my job, and I have a lot of help, but I know it's my job. And this is the main way I'm showing everybody themselves that the universe is a mirror. And we're going to get into how that works based on the laws of physics. Because when something's true, it's true in multiple places. So that's why I like to rely on psychology and laws of physics and cardiology and mysticism and shamanism to show that the same truth is expressed in multiple places. Like 1 + 1 = 2 everywhere, right? That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Okay, here is my book. And before I accepted that I'm the reincarnation of Mary Magdalene, that I'm the divine feminine, I wrote a book. And I published it in April of 2025. And then in the summer and fall of 2025 is when I really accepted all the signs and synchronicities of my reincarnation. And that's on my website and the origin story if you want to check it out. But I attracted several men into my life as a mirror back to me. And my book goes from my suicide attempt in 2019 to bringing out my shamanic gifts in all these relationships, and then experiencing enlightenment for the first time in 2024. And I didn't go on a date with any of these guys, but my second and third heroes, and I call them my heroes because they mirrored my wounds back to me, showed me where I can improve myself. And I'm much better off for it. So I'm the heroine in the book, they're the heroes. And I'm sure that it could be triggering that I'm calling Andrew Tate a hero. But he triggers a lot of people. And I have a rape wound. So in my book, there's Justin is number 2. And then I was talking to Justin. Our personal relationship with Justin started in June of 2022, which was 2 months before Andrew's takedown started. So it always felt like I was working in lockstep with someone. Only did I find out in the end of 2024 who it seems like I'm working in lockstep with. And that's the 6th hero in my book is my guy from my childhood who got the job of head of global security at GoDaddy 1 month before I reached out to Justin, and he's former FBI. Who is powerful enough to kick Andrew off social media. FBI does a lot of internet censorship, and then take away his payment processing center, and then throw him in solitary confinement. I would say the FBI, the American government, probably could do that. Anyway, let's get into this Carl Jung quote so we can see how, a lot of people project onto Andrew and then he's the problem. Put him in jail. So many women, so many men are triggered by Andrew Tate. But if we acknowledge that our heart projects how we feel about ourselves onto the quantum field, the universe, to mirror it back to us, then we can say, oh, maybe those people were sexually abused. And if we think about who I attracted in next to my life, yeah, it's a little scary. So after Justin, I attracted in 2 decorated Fire Academy instructors into my life. 164, 167. Before it got me back to JC, head of global security at GoDaddy. So men at the top have a lot in common with Andrew Tate. And, I'm working on it. But let's read the Carl Jung quote. If you imagine someone who is brave enough to withdraw all of his projections, then you might get an individual who is conscious of a pretty thick shadow. Such a man has saddled himself with new problems and conflicts, has become a serious problem to himself. And as he is now unable to say that they do this and they do that, they are wrong and they must be fought against, such a man knows that whatever is wrong with the world is in himself. And if he only learns to deal with his own shadow, he has done something real for the world. He has succeeded in shouldering at least an infinitesimal part of a gigantic unsolved social problems of our day. And I'm going to follow that up with another Carl Jung quote. What irritates us about others leads us to an understanding of ourselves. So Carl Jung takes us out and then takes us back. The universe is a mirror. It's a projection. So when these congressmen speak in such a way, are they talking about themselves? Or are they really talking about Donald Trump? I'm going to leave you, with that. But let me back up in my presentation here. This is my weekly webinar I give, and there's copies on my YouTube channel if you'd like to check it out to help you learn. There's 6 free DIY trauma healing techniques, because the techniques I'm teaching you, it's feminine wisdom. And if women were at home with open hearts and healthy and feminine, they'd have all this wisdom too, and we wouldn't need psychology like we do today. Okay. Let's start with the map of consciousness and understand that physicists have proven that we all have energy bodies, and that our energy bodies vibrate at different frequencies expressing our emotions. So here on the left, we have all the different frequencies, with enlightenment being the highest vibrating emotion. Now, I have a master's degree in East Asian religious studies. I speak Chinese. I learned classical Chinese. I lived in Chinese Buddhist monasteries. Visited Tibet, met the Karmapa in Tibet when he was 7 years old, and he's like the 2nd highest spiritual leader in Tibetan Buddhism. He escaped at 14 and lives in Dharamsala, gave a TED Talk at 21, which is how competent he is. Right? I didn't discuss enlightenment with him, of course, but no one ever taught me enlightenment is an emotion. It doesn't mean they don't know. I'm just saying I never learned that. I had to learn that on my own after I experienced it for the first time in 2024. So we see here that shame vibrates at 20 hertz, fear 100 hertz, love 500 hertz, and 700 to 1,000 hertz is enlightenment. The higher vibrating the energy, the more transformative it is. So when one experiences enlightenment, the soul opens up attractor energy cells to influence all of mankind. The electromagnetic field around the heart is 5,000 times stronger than the brain. The heart attracts. So when we express enlightenment out of our hearts, we attract even stronger. And I'm in and out of enlightenment all the time, helping myself and helping everybody else with these 6 divine feminine self-love strategies, my free ebook below. And so if we think that the universe is a mirror, including ourselves, when we're constantly vibrating between 20 and 100 hertz between shame and fear, cancer vibrates at below 100 hertz. Viruses, bacteria, all vibrate below 100 hertz. I haven't gotten sick in 6 years, and I used to be sick all the time. because I healed, because I learned how to surf the waves of life. Another rule, another lesson in my ebook. And I learned how to spend a lot more time in these higher vibrating emotions. So I don't need to attract illness into me, showing me how wounded my soul is, because the body's a mirror to the soul too. Everything mirrors the soul. Soul's in charge, inner authority. So when we learn how to operate our souls, which is what my self-love strategies do, then what comes out of our hearts is love, and that's how we co-create heaven on earth. Self-love creates heaven on earth. Heaven is a frequency in our hearts because we live in a holographic universe. So let's learn from this physics experiment exactly how resonance works. So resonance works that when two energies vibrate at the same frequency, they both move together, drawing, kind of creating a group, a tribe, a kind of an identity, right? But when one frequencies, we'll say here is 512 hertz and one is 440 hertz, they don't even notice each other. They're in different universes, so to speak. Let's see how this works. So you can see that how resonance works is that when you're at the same frequency, in the same tribe, the same identity, that's how you notice each other, and that's how you see yourself. So what tribes are you in? What identities do you have based on the people around you? Wisdom says that you're the summary of the 5 people you hang around most. And I'm going to, in a minute, share oh, you know what? I'll share it right now. Let's talk about that. Why changing the world is an inside job. So if I change the frequency in my heart, then what I resonate with, the culture and the tribes I'm attracted to, change. Okay, here's the example I wanted to share. So if you see a movie with your best friend, same movie, what your friend resonates with, what your friend's, drawn to, attracted to, perceives, will not be identical to what you perceive and are attracted to. Because your souls are not identical. The wounds and the wisdom in your soul, where your soul's vibrating is not identical. It's probably complementary. And that's why you're friends, because they have something to add and you have something to add. We attract in our opposites often, like Andrew Tate. If I had a rape wound and I attracted an Andrew Tate, I don't need to say much more. I don't know his legal history. I don't have access to that. But I'm just saying. Okay, let me bring up this physics experiment that shows the physics of the wisdom that you're the summary of the 5 people you hang around most. And you'll notice that the 2 fastest moving metrodones get the other 3 metrodones to move super fast, because the highest vibrating energy is the most transformative. So that's why it's important to do that emotional work, expand your emotional range. But in order to expand your emotional range, you have to explore your depths to catapult you to your heights. Life is like jumping on a trampoline. The deeper you go, the higher you fly. And you got to fly high to experience enlightenment. But let me bring up the spontaneous synchronization physics experiment. And here we go. So as you see, they all start to align pretty quickly, all based on energy, not talking or anything, just based on energy. That's how powerful energy is. And now I'm going to teach you about how the heart is a vortex, a literal physical vortex. Like the black hole, that's creation. The heart, that's the feminine. That's creation. Creation is feminine. I know in Christianity, they ascribe creation to a masculine God. I'm addressing it. but let's learn how reality actually functions. And one thing I could bring up about Christianity, we still all learn that the heart is a pump. That's an external locus of control, like fear God. But we live in a holographic universe. That's a projection from our hearts to fear. When we project love from our hearts, and we love ourselves, then we remember that we're all divine beings, multidimensional divine beings, capable of enlightenment all of our own, capable of revealing the wisdom, all the wisdom and the knowledge in the universe on our own. Now, doing all that in one lifetime, that's not possible because it takes time and effort and the body. You got to work with the body, the energy in the body. The body can't just fly at 1,000,000 miles a second. Like I was deep in shame, guilt, and fear. I couldn't just jump to enlightenment at 1,000 hertz. I would have had a heart attack and died. I had to learn to surf the waves of life. And I started on a 1-foot wave. I mean, now I'm on those 70-foot waves off of Portugal, in and out of enlightenment every time. But that took me 10 years, to be able to do this. I started healing 10 years ago on my 45th birthday when my mom passed away. And my intuition told me it's time to accept my psychic gifts and it's time to heal from my childhood trauma, inner authority. All right, let's learn about the inner authority that the heart provides. And then I'm going to get to a video about how the blood flows and how a heart is created in an embryo. And did you know that the blood flows before the heart is created? So if that happens, how can the heart be the pump of the blood? We're going to get into that. All righty. Oh, that's not the... Here we go.
Let me just read this because I think it's actually probably one of the best descriptions of the heart that I've ever run across. They taught you the heart was just a glorified meat pump, that it squeezes and pushes blood like some crude mechanical device, a hydraulic engine made of flesh. That is what they want you to believe, because if you buy into that primitive lie, you never ask deeper questions. You buy lie. But it is false. It has always been false. And the real science proves it. Dr. Francesco Torrenguas, a Spanish cardiac researcher, discovered what the textbooks refuse to acknowledge, that the heart is not a pump. He dissected thousands of hearts and found that the heart is a single continuous muscle band folded into a spiral. He proved that the heart works like a vortex generator, creating suction and torque, not pressure. He called it the helical ventricular myocardial band, and it changes everything. The real movement of the blood comes from pressure differentials, electromagnetic flow, and coherent resonance. The blood spirals naturally. It need not be forced through miles of arteries and capillaries. The so-called pump is not strong enough to push thick fluid through 60,000 miles of tubing. That is basic physics. That lie was dead on arrival. Here is the truth. Blood moves before the heart forms in the embryo. That is, by the way, a documented fact. It flows via frequency, resonance, and electric charge. The body is a field, not a factory. Your heart creates a toroidal electromagnetic field that radiates 6 meters from the body. This field syncs with the earth, the sun, and every living being around you. It is a resonator, a tuner, a conductor. It aligns the rhythm of your cells. It feels, it remembers, it emits, and it responds to emotion, thought, light, sound, and breath. When you feel love, grief, fear, or peace, your heart transmits it. It is the central frequency modulator of your biology, not a pump. And the institutions know this. The Heart Math Institute has measured these fields for decades. They know the heart has more neuronal cells than parts of the brain. They know it is a second brain. They know coherence in the heart transforms the entire nervous system. So why are they still teaching children?
That is an excellent question, and I'm going to get into that right now. Why are they teaching kids an external locus of control? Because if we teach everyone that we have an internal locus of control, that goes in direct opposition to the Christian worldview. That's what I see. So if we teach everyone that their heart is a vortex capable of so much, then why would we obey authority? Because we have inner authority. So is that, teaching based off of fear? The Heart Math Institute has all this information. Why do most people believe the heart is still a pump when that's based on the laws of physics completely impossible? Well, I'm going to let you think about that. But let's go into the neurology of the heart. Yes, the neurology in the heart's nervous system is far more complex than the brain. And the heart sends about 90 more signals to the brain than the other way around. So, we always hear heart and soul. The soul communicates out through the heart. And then what it communicates, like if it communicates fear, then that communicates fear to the brain. Then the brain releases cortisol. You see? But when we close down the heart, we overact the brain, we're constantly focused outside of ourselves, external locus of control. There's codependent, there's the victim mindset, there's the God gives us dominion over animals and land, manifest destiny, Spanish Inquisition, burning women at the stake. Women can't say that their intuition connects them to God. The cross is the only ladder to heaven. Didn't you know? I mean, they're just helping you out, knocking on your door saying, the cross is the only ladder to heaven. You come with us, we won't have to kill you as a heretic. That's kindness, right? That's how they're loving their enemy, by teaching them the truth, speaking truth to power. I'm just saying a couple things here. Okay, let me bring up how hearts are formed in the embryo, and really two more quotes. My favorite Einstein and Tesla quote. The field is the sole governing agency of the particle. Einstein. The field meaning the energy field, and here the particle meaning blood or the body. And as we saw in the last video, this blood spirals. Well, how does it spiral? Well, that's the energy field controlling the particle, the blood. And as Tesla says famously, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Resonance. Why does Adam Schiff resonate with illegals? There's not a lot of fraud going on in the Democratic Party right now, is there? Fraud? Just saying a couple things. All right, let me pull this up. This is I love this one. Okay. Before the heart beats for the first time, something far greater begins to move. Long before your heart ever beat, thousands of cardiac cells made a silent decision. There was no pulse, no rhythm, no sound. In the earliest stages of development, individual heart cells begin firing electrical signals on their own. Then something remarkable happens. They synchronize. They resonate. Separate impulses, as we saw in the 5-metrodone experiment, right? Separate impulses align into one coordinated electrical wave. That wave triggers the first contraction, the first heartbeat, the beginning of a rhythm that can last a lifetime. And there's more down here, and I'll link all this below. But wow. When I saw all that, it's like, proof's in the pudding. And that is the pudding as I see it. All right, please check out my free ebook below. Please like and subscribe and help me distribute my free ebook and all of this wisdom so we can all learn how to calibrate our souls and then our nervous systems for love, compassion, and enlightenment instead of fear, guilt, and shame. Because when your soul spends most of its time in love, compassion, and enlightenment, that's what comes out your heart, and that's what regulates your nervous system. So it's up to you to heal from your childhood trauma, and my channel gives you a lot of DIY techniques, free DIY techniques to make that happen. Okay, please reach out with any questions. Bye.